Hi there, beautiful souls, and welcome back, or welcome to The Hawk and I. My name is Lana Zelinsky, and I work in the spirit dimensions. As always, in all my videos, simply take what resonates, and you're welcome to leave the rest right here. It has been a long time since I shared an experience that I've had with spirit. I do have permission from this client and from their family to share the experience. However, I was asked to not divulge location or names, so I will be honoring that 100%. So I was asked to see this elderly man. He was in his 80s, who was experiencing some paranormal activity in his home, and he was quite fearful. He was quite frantic. He wasn't sleeping. The family had some big concerns. He didn't feel safe in his own home, so they asked if I would come over and talk to him and assess the house. So I also suggested that they also talk to their family doctor. I'm a big believer that the physical world and the spirit dimensions need to work together. So I wanted to make sure that there was nothing physically going on with him as well, and they honored that. They were like, great idea. So they went and talked to their family doctor. The client had an assessment. Absolutely nothing going on cognitively. He passed all the cognitive testing. There was nothing infection wise going on that was going to cause any kind of confusion. So they were convinced that this was spiritual. So over I went. I had a lovely talk with this gentleman beforehand, before he let me in the house. He wanted to know a little bit about me, and I thought, good on him. He wanted to make sure that there was nothing crazy going on with me. So we had a lovely discussion. I went into the house, and I started to have a wander around. As I wandered around, I felt spirit come in like a bulldozer, literally come on in. So I sat for a while and just kind of felt the energy, made some spirit communication, and I started to do some channeling. And the most profound experience for this family, started to unravel. So there had been a sudden death of a family member of this gentleman. He lost his daughter in a very tragic accident. 3 years after her passing, they suffered another loss of another child. He lost a son. Now these two siblings in the spirit dimensions were coming together to hang out with dad. So, and spirit communicates in many different ways, right? There can be flickering of lights, there can be a sense. This gentleman was kind of feeling like there was somebody behind him all the time. He described a situation where he lost his footing out in the garden, and he felt like a pair of hands pushing him back up. And I started to channel, the validation that his two of his children who had passed. He had 5 kids, 2 had passed. They were coming in to help support him and to be with him. He was also struggling with the recent loss of a spouse. So he had a lot of grief. He had a lot of tragedy and trauma, and he had been evaluating parts of his life. And he was struggling with feeling that he had done something wrong to have had so much tragedy and to have so much loss. And his 2 kids were coming in first to support and to reach out to him. Now, there is a cultural difference here between me and the client, so I did need a translator because this gentleman did not speak English, and there was a big tie to a religion. So there was so much fear, and there was so much, have I done something wrong? And there was so much that, from childhood, to be in your 80s, there's a lot of belief systems, and there's a lot of experiences, and there's a lot of fear. So once I was able to give him the validation as to who his kids were, because names, significant events, how they passed, birth dates, he started to settle down, and he started to kind of like open up. And as he became more open, and as he became more settled, and I needed, not me, but they needed him to settle down, breathe a little bit, and have an understanding. And then his wife came in. So when his wife came in, you can imagine, this was the sweetest couple who had been married like 70 years. She had recently passed. He didn't feel her anywhere. He wasn't sure if she connected with the kids on the other side. He had all of this stuff going through his head, and it was the most beautiful thing to experience, to watch his wife and his 2 kids come in and sit with him at, in the house at the table, and we had the most profound experience. It was just incredible. Now, this is where things get very interesting. So, I spent probably a good 2 hours there. The family was so lovely. We had tea and some treats, and it was time for me to go. So, as I was getting ready to leave, and I was getting my shoes on, a car pulled into their driveway. Getting out of the car were two church leaders. So the family had also asked this gentleman's church leaders to come and talk to him. So, which is wonderful, which is absolutely wonderful. So as I'm coming out, the church leaders are, parking the car, and they're coming out, and the family introduced me. So the family introduced me, this is Lana. She's come over to talk to my dad. She practices mediumship, and you won't believe what happened, she says to these church leaders. My siblings and my deceased mom have come to talk. So as this is being explained to them, you can see the color draining from their face, and you can and I'm okay with that, right? I'm perfectly okay with that. There is a misunderstanding between what I do and and belief systems in certain cultures and in certain religions, and it's okay. So I thought I was going to be able to excuse myself when this gentleman's daughter suggests, why don't you just come back in and talk? Why don't you share with them how you work? I'm okay with that, but I wasn't so sure the other two gentlemen were going to be open to sitting with me. So there was this eerie kind of awkward silence, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna be the one to take the lead on this. And I simply said, I'm happy if you guys want to come in and sit with me, and in a place of mutual love and mutual respect for the difference in our belief systems. I'm happy to come in. And I thought this is a good learning opportunity for me and for everybody involved. So in we go, and the tension just felt so heavy. I thought, they really don't want to do this. So I thought I would give them an out. So I simply said, if you're not comfortable, I really am okay with that. Now, the church leaders were very different generations. So there was an older gentleman and a younger gentleman. And the younger gentleman piped up, and he said, no, I think you said it right. If we can sit in mutual respect and mutual love, I'd love to hear what you have to say. And I was like, okay. So we sit back down, we get a fresh cup of tea and a new plate of cookies. And I just started sharing my experience. And I started from the beginning. I just shared my experience. I do have, a background of connecting to, different religions when in my younger years. And I just simply shared my journey with them. Just this is how I got here. And then I shared what I channeled, with this gentleman and his family, and they were over the moon. You just see the peace over this family, and they were so grateful to have an understanding of what their dad had been experiencing. So then we started to talk a little bit more about what I do and how it's perceived, and I just simply smiled sweetly, and I said, okay. And I asked Spirit, so I know I always talk to my guides, can you please help me here, because it's not about me. What I do is not about me. It's about Spirit, right? So I simply said, can you help me out here? I then started to channel a little boy, and he was 4 years old. He had been passed a very long time, and he started giving me a description as to who he was and about what happened to him. And he said, I need to talk about the guilt. It's been a lifetime of it. And I feel like this is really having an impact on your health. So the channeling went on, and the silence grew, and and I could just see, when you can just see people kind of sinking. I could see the older gentleman, really kind of coming, like that step back, that feeling of being overwhelmed and taken back. I then felt, I was able to describe to them a scene. So I was able to describe this river, what was around the river, and I suddenly seen this little boy alone. The little boy that I passed, I could see him alone, and he went into the river. The older gentleman that was sitting across from me had left his little brother, so his little brother was 4, and he was 7. And the older brother ran back home, leaving his little brother by the river. And his thoughts at the time were, oh, he'll follow me. He'll just follow me back. And he didn't wait. So the little brother went into the river, and tragedy ended his life. So this older gentleman, was silently sobbing. And I couldn't step out of the grief. I had to continue with the guilt, the guilt and the grief. The guilt and the grief had been something that he had been carrying, and if I estimated his age, probably a good 50 years plus. As I'm sharing this story, he interrupts me. It's like I continue to talk about the grief and the guilt, and this older gentleman interrupted me, and I thought I was going to be escorted out. But there had been a shift there. And he literally said to me, I have been carrying this my entire life. I have never, ever gotten over that. And as the tears were coming down his face, he said, I misjudged you. And I have misjudged how profound the work that you are doing and how healing that is. The younger gentleman then intervened into the conversation. And he explained, how old belief systems and old thoughts and lack of understanding, if they would have carried that into their meeting with me, this wouldn't have happened. If they wouldn't have agreed to sit down, if they wouldn't have been able to put that down and just simply listen. And I remember, just kind of like regrouping myself, and how I also had that choice. Had I not opened up to an invite to say, can you come and sit? Do you want to come in? I'm good with that. Had I not been open enough, this wouldn't have happened either. And so the conversation went from, the mediumship, how it works, to the passing of this, this gentleman's brother at a very young age, and how that impacted his life and what his brother wants for him. And then into shifting into, maybe we need to kind of be more open and just kind of have a listen and just kind of feel things out. It was so profound to see that crack of light, to see that opening, to see that we can meet in a neutral space and saying, let me just listen and hear you. What if there's something greater than what we know? We talked about this for 2 hours, and just on the shift in openness, and how closed we can be, not just in spirituality, not just in the physical world, not just in religion, but as a collective, that we don't kind of pause and just kind of listen and just kind of open and just kind of be, and to no judgmental. And these two church leaders said that to me. My instant reflex was no. And when you opened up the invitation and it was the mutual respect, can we just lovingly talk, that kind of shifted. And and it was so magical to watch that. Like, it was just so profound to be able to say, it's that simple to just put it all down and just open our hearts. And the younger church leader, said, when you think about the things that are so parallel with, different belief systems, there's a solid foundation there, right? It's with the love and the kindness and the caring and the healing, that, that's the space that we kind of need to meet. What was really interesting is they asked me if at some point I would come and talk to their community. And I literally felt myself wobble. I literally felt that profound shift of collectiveness and collective love. And I just felt that opening. And for as many years as I've been doing this, I have not felt that before. I have not felt that before, with just the shift. We are shifting in the physical world. We are becoming more open. We are working on, whether it be old ways of thinking or closed-mindedness. We've got to kind of acknowledge that too. And I feel that when we start to acknowledge that openness, that collectiveness, and with respect and love, man, what a magical experience, what a magical world. You know, it was just so profound. I did get an email about a week after my experience there in that house. The gentleman was doing much, much better. I mean, you know, he had a lot of loss in his life, and he's still going through, you know, through grief. But the fear and this paranormal activity, as they were calling it, you know, it was spirit reaching out to them. It settled down, and when I asked back in the email, you know, what is he doing different, that there's not so much spirit activity, and the response was, he's talking to them. So he knows that they're there, and that was spirit's biggest wanting of him to know is, you're not alone, Dad. You know, we're here. We're with you. Magic. I do hope you enjoyed hearing my experience. It was a very different one, even as far as how it all unraveled. And I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity. And you know, there was also growth for me, because I stepped out of that fear, because I'll tell you, I had it. I had that moment of, what are they going to think of me? Right? As always, I'm wishing you love, light, blessings, and have a spirit guided day. Take care, you guys.